Wish you could become a morning person? You know the type, up before the sun, early morning runs, first one to the office with donuts and a smile. How do they do it? Easy. With the new Galaxy Watch 8, sleep tracking and personalized insights from Samsung Health help you improve so you can wake up to a whole new you. One who, dare I say it, skips the snooze? It's possible. Train your sleep with Galaxy Watch 8. Learn more at Samsung.com. Requires compatible Samsung Galaxy phone, Samsung Health app, and Samsung account.
At Starbucks, we offer full and part-time baristas 100% upfront college tuition coverage, which means they can thrive at our company and in class. At Starbucks, benefits like college tuition coverage are just the start.
Jif peanut butter. It's that jiffing good, it doesn't really need advertising. So instead, enjoy the calming sounds of the ocean. Jif. Ooh, it's that jiffing good. Get your Jif at Jif.com.
This episode is brought to you by Tic Tac. Your boss is going off at you for missing a deadline and you swear the clock just moved backwards. Suddenly, you remember the pack of Tic Tacs on your desk. Now you're riding horseback on the beach, the smell of citrus in the air. And what's this? Your boss is sitting behind you, breathing heavenly fresh mint? Refresh your mouth and mind and share your good vibes with Tic Tac.
As a contractor, I don't pay for materials I don't use. So why would I pay for stuff I don't need in my mobile plan? That's why the new MyBiz plan from Verizon Business is so perfect. Now I can choose exactly what I want, and I only pay for what I need.
Right now, with MyBiz plan, get our best price, as low as $25 a line. Visit Verizon.com/business to get started today. New lines only. Price per month with 5+ lines. Includes auto pay and paper-free billing and promotional discount. Taxes, fees, economic adjustment charge. Applicable add-ons, prices, and terms apply. Guarantee applies to base monthly rate and stated discounts only. Add-on prices additional. Offers end September 30th, 2025.
Hey all you heroes, hawks, heralds, crows, pirates, and wardens. Welcome to the Dragon Age Lorecast, where we unpack, discuss, and galaxy brain about all the lore behind the Dragon Age series.
We are so excited to bring you this podcast. Every episode, we'll be talking about a different topic in the Dragon Age universe, from character deep dives to exalted marches and elven gods. We will cover it all.
There will be spoilers. And always remember, swooping is bad.
Hello and welcome to the Dragon Age Lorecast, where we talk about Dragon Age and its lore. I'm one of your hosts, Austin, also known as Teacup.
And I'm your other host, Shelby or Shecup.
That you are, and we are back for another lore episode of Dragon Age, where we are talking about something.
Literature.
Big brain.
Literature and theater, so like plays, that kind of stuff.
The arts.
Yeah, we're still solidly in our entertainment arena. I think this is only the second like actual entertainment episode that we've done, because we had a patron chat and a character deep dive. So, yeah, we're getting into like books and plays and just like cultural stuff in Thedas.
That's exciting.
So let's just dive right into the fun facts. And the first thing I want to shout out is Lord Enzo of Antiva, who is Josephine's fiance. In case you've never played her romance, this is the man you duel. He actually goes to the theater every single week, which is a little excessive, but there you go.
Theater every week, that is a lot. But I guess if you like consider it like the movies, I mean, going to the movies every week, I guess would still be pretty a lot. And like in this economy, who can afford to do that?
I know. I mean, I guess people used to do that when they were more affordable.
Yes. Well, and they have those like passes that you can basically like a monthly subscription to the movies now. So I guess that would work. But
I don't want to get on a tangent. Okay. Anyway, another fun fact that I had that I did not put in here is that in Dragon Age Inquisition, Josephine can take you to the opera. And another fun fact that I want to shout out going from Antiva to Orlais is that actually quite a lot of Orlesian emperors have placed restrictions on the theater in Orlais. So Mad Emperor Reveal restricted it to wordless pantomimes only because he feared that plays were basically being used to like plan rebellions, which, knowing Orlais, was probably founded in reality. And then Emperor Florian almost shut down the theater completely because they had made fun of the Orlesian occupation of Ferelden.
One, screw Florian.
That's Florian, not Florian.
Or Florin.
Florian.
Screw him. Screw Florian too.
Yeah, absolutely. Just they're different people with basically the same name because that's how royal families do things.
Exactly. Also, in the show notes, you wrote foment rebellion, and I'm reminded of that Office scene where Dwight's like, there will be no fomenting of rebellion, and Jim's like, what if we've already fomented rebellion?
Okay.
And they're like, you define foment. You define foment.
It just means stoking rebellion.
Yes,
it's
I know.
A very easy word.
Yes, I know. I just was reminded of that. It was funny. I also just we've got a recurring theme of Emperor and Empresses of Orlais just having issues with the theater.
Yeah, well, I mean, Celine gets it honest. I mean, we talk about her reacting negatively to her portrayal in the theater, but she comes from a long line of ancestors who did just that.
Yeah, I mean, just have thick skin. You think if you would get to be Emperor of Orlais, you have to at least have a little bit of thick skin.
Yeah, you'd think they'd be used to it, right? But I think at least with Celine, we know a little bit more of the context, so we know that they just happened to hit on this one particular thing that was super raw and close to her heart with Briala, and so she just couldn't keep it in. We don't know about the other two.
Right. That's fair.
So just getting into my last fun fact before we jump in is that Winter's End is a holiday that has basically become a day where, yes, we're celebrating the end of winter, but they also tend to go to theater, go to see a play in celebration of this holiday.
It's interesting to me, again, that we never go see a play. Other than Josephine can take us to the opera. But in any of the games, there's never a plot line to watch this play.
I know, I think of so many games where there are scenes at the opera or the theater or whatever. I just thinking of Assassin's Creed with Assassin's Creed 3 right off the bat. So I agree with you. It is odd that we've never seen that. You would think Antiva would be a great setting for that, or Orlais in Inquisition, but we didn't get that, and that's okay.
Right, and I can understand a place like Minrathous or Tevinter not really having that because they've never been painted as a culture that really emphasizes the arts, whereas Orlais and Antiva have been that historically.
We'll get into that. We'll get into Minrathous a little bit later.
All right.
But let's just jump into books before we get into theater in the second half. So with literature, books are actually pretty popular in Thedas. And I want to give a caveat because this is a little bit surprising because not everybody in Thedas is literate. We know that the printing press has been invented. That is a thing. And we know that pretty much all of the upper class and nobility, anybody with any kind of wealth, is literate. We know that schools exist, and so there is some semblance. There is a a percentage of the Thedas society that is literate. We're not sure what that percentage is, and we do know that there are, a lot of lower class and poorer people in Thedas that are still illiterate. So we're not sure what the breakdown looks like, but we do know that books are at least fairly common and are pretty accessible throughout the nations. And so much so that certain books and certain authors are widely known and have fans from across every class of people, every nation of people, every race of people. So from like, maybe not the Cunari Cerebos, but like the Talvashoth, to the Surface Dwarves, to Venter Magisters, everybody knows who Varric Tethras is. Everybody knows who Brother Ferdinand Genitivi is.
Yeah.
And I list those two as my example because they are unambiguously, I might add, the most popular and well-known authors throughout Thedas. No argument whatsoever.
Yeah, it's just really interesting to me, like this illiteracy conversation that's around Thedas, because like most of the time your protagonist could read. And like, I guess like my question then is like the only one that I would bring up questions of were they taught to read are the commoner, dwarven commoner background, the city elf background, the Dalish background for like human language, and then Hawk.
Why would Hawk not know how to read? They can write letters.
Yeah, I guess that's thing, but like with Hawk's background, like would they not have fallen to maybe this classification of like who taught them how to read? I guess Leandra.
Well, if
would
your
be
parents know how to read, 9 times out of 10, you're going to know how to read. And we know that not only did, Malcolm have some kind of letters studying of some kind because he was a mage and a good one at that, Leandra came from a noble background.
That's fair. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, I mean, we know all the protagonists can read because like they send letters, they get letters, they read spells, like yeah, they know how to read. Like everybody who goes to a circle knows how to read.
Okay. So yeah, it just was interesting because I'm reminded of this conversation that happens in the inheritance cycle when they go in and like Roran, when he goes in, he doesn't know how to read. And he's like, why do I need to know how to read? And Naswada's like, because you'll be manipulated if you don't. You need to know how to read so that you know what orders you're supposed to deliver. So you're not reliant on other people to tell you
what you're supposed to do. And like, you're not reliant on other people to like read you contracts so you can sign your name. Like there's a lot of, basic building blocks that reading is fundamental.
Yes. And so I was just... it was interesting to me that like these organizations, like obviously the Chevaliers would know how to read because they're nobility. Yeah. But like the Wardens, the Crows, like all of these other factions, like you would think their members being literate would be like a requirement.
And I think it probably is. I think the majority of Thedas is literate. We don't know the exact breakdown of it, but I agree with you. If you belong to one of these societies, whether it's the Wardens or a circle or the Inquisition or whatever, like you know how to read. You're going to have to. It's just kind of these people that live in like the random boonies in Ferelden or Orlais, like where Cole grew up, like those kinds of people where, okay, they don't belong to any kind of society. The only like kind of place of learning that they may go is the chantry. Like those are the types of people that may not be literate.
Right. And I'm thinking of like Sarah before she gets to the Friends of Red Jenny. Like Sarah might not have known how to read before that point.
Yeah, fair. Very fair. Although probably not, because she did live with that Orlesian noblewoman for a while.
Oh, that's right.
But anyway, let's move on from the literacy conversation a little bit and get into some popular books. So I'm just going to go through some of these with just like a basic short bio. Some of them we've discussed before in other character deep dives on Varric's episode and just like various times throughout the podcast. But this is a place where we're going to have them all together. So these are some of the most popular books in Thedas. And the first one is called The Dasher's Men by Varric Tethras. Features a feud between two Carta clans and a pair of casteless brothers as the main characters. Sounds familiar. The next one is called Darktown's Deal, also by Varric. And this is a serial that's about the coterie of Kirkwall. The Viper's Nest, also by Varric, is a story about an elven courtier that gets in the middle of a feud between two families in the Dwarven Merchants Guild. And then we have the classic Hard in Hightown, which is a very famous, if not the most famous, actually I'm 90% sure this is the most famous book in Thedas. And it knocked off Brother Ferdinand Genitivi's work about the Chantry as that one's now the second most. So Hard in Hightown is the most popular. And it basically follows Kirkwall City Guardsman Donan Brenikovic, who is fighting against the Executors. And it has several sequels, including Siege Harder and The Repuncheoning. And you can actually go listen to our book club episode on Hard in Hightown, where we read at least the first edition and discussed it in depth. Now, the book I just referenced, Brother Ferdinand Genitivi's most popular work, is called In Pursuit of Knowledge. And basically what it is in our terms, a collection of codex entries. But in universe, it's a collection of entries that basically talk about Thedas history, geography, culture, architecture, and more. And like I said, it was the most popular and most well-read book in Thedas. And now I would say it's number 2.
Yeah. It's basically Thedas' encyclopedia.
Yes.
Like if you own the world of Thedas, like those books, those volumes 1 and 2, that's probably what we're kind of looking at.
Yeah.
For Brother Genitivi's
with
book.
some changes. I don't think his stuff includes any of like the characters from the games and that kind of stuff. But yeah, overall.
Yeah.
Another very popular book is called The Seer's Yarn, a treasury of tales for children all over by Seer Agata. And it's literally just a collection of fairy tales and children's stories, which we will be talking about in depth later on in the podcast this season, which I'm actually really excited about.
It's like the Brothers Grimm, but Dragon Age.
Exactly. And then another one that we all are very familiar with is Swords and Shields, also by Varric, which is a romance novel. He claims it's super unpopular, not very good. Cassandra loves it, etc. We know all this from Inquisition.
So, like, I guess with like Swords and Shields, like I think there is a banter dialogue that you can have where they ask Aveline about if she like knows that
if it's her,
and she's like, no, it's not me,
girl, it's you. It is her.
But isn't this book like smut?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Okay, so there are a few more Varric books that follow like the course of the games. So The Tale of the Champion follows Hawk. Tales of the Inquisition's Agents follows the agents of the Inquisitor and their stories during the time of DAI. All This Shit Is Weird follows the story of the Inquisitor. So he's got those 3, which just make him so much more famous, I can imagine.
Yeah. Spoilers for the Dragon Age: The Veilguard. If Varric didn't die in DAV, I feel like the Veilguard would have been All This Shit Is Weirder or something like that.
Yeah, I have no idea what it would be. So another one by Ferdinand Genitivi is called Tales from the Destruction of Thedas, which I would love to have a copy of. But it basically just details the most turbulent times in Thedas' history, including like the Exalted Marches, Andraste's war against Tevinter, the Blights, and just everything we always talk about on the podcast.
Yeah, and he probably had to update this when with a lot of things, but especially Inquisition, of going back and being like, okay, here's all the things that we learned from Professor Kenrick's discoveries in Jaws of Hacken.
That's true. I want more content from Brother Genitivi, but also like he's now writing under a new name, so who knows if there's just like another history book that comes out that's like by him. Another one by him, speaking of, is called Stone Halls of the Dwarves, and it details dwarven history, including the Paragons, the Legion of the Dead, and more. This is also another one that I would love to have like actually written as a book.
Do you think he had to get like Shaperit approval to write this book?
Sure. For sure. I'm sure he did. Because, I mean, don't you have to get approval to go into Orzammar anyway?
Yeah, they have to let you
Yeah,
in.
they have to let you in. So I'm sure. And then the last book that I want to talk about is called Grim Anatomy. And this is by an unknown author. And if you've never heard of this one, it's very fascinating. It basically is a book on demonic possession that was written in the Dragon Age. And nobody knows who wrote it. Nobody knows why they wrote it. Nobody knows where it came from. It just kind of showed up one day. The way I picture it, and I know we don't talk about this on the podcast, but in Harry Potter, there's the book that has like teeth and is like trying to attack Hermione. That's how I picture Grim Anatomy.
Yeah. Like, is this a book of like an instruction manual on how to get possessed? Or is it like a book of like, these are the effects of demonic possession?
So you should definitely look it up on Fandom, just because it has like pictures and stuff. We get some images and details about it also in The World of Thedas, Volume 2. Just some more background on it. It was unearthed in 916 Dragon during an expedition into an uncharted area of the Western Approach by the University of Orlais. It's basically like an invented language, like a cipher almost. And a lot of it also is a study of like animal physiology related to demons. And we don't really know... We don't really know why. The author has been said to have been using quote unquote unorthodox methods of dissection. So, like, we don't know if the author was possessed themselves while they were doing all this. Like, we really truly don't know anything about the author. Like, and Grim Anatomy isn't even the book's name. That's what it was dubbed by the people who found it. So it's really more of a journal that then they found and published.
Interesting. I feel like that's one of those moments where it's just like, hey, we found this thing. And then there's that woman from TikTok that just goes, put it back.
100%. And I do have a quote from the book. So basically in the section of the book about wyverns, the author talks about a possessed wyvern and how it moves and says, quote, "It's not wearing the creature's skin. It has become the creature, its mind, its senses, its blood."
Put it back.
I know.
That's why the Dragon Age is the way it is. It's because they uncovered this book.
I know. Oh, and then I meant to add too, the last couple pages of the book basically are completely illegible. Like, you can't read it. Like, the script has just kind of like fallen apart. And then also it looks like somebody tried to burn it and then it didn't catch on fire and it didn't get destroyed and survived all of that. And there are some diagrams at the end that depict things, but nobody knows what they are, because they're not any like known animals or humans. They're just kind of like disorganized geometric figures.
Honestly. It sounds like Gillenane's dissertation.
Yeah, I hear that. Also, though, looking at the pictures, I don't think it is, just because I feel like she would have more knowledge than this.
Probably. And she's not really, I mean, she is insane, but not that insane. Like, not like speaking in code, kind of.
Yes, fair. So if you want to know more, you can look that up in either the fandom or in the World of Thedas Encyclopedia.
Interesting. Well, would now be a good time for the mid-break?
Yes, let's do it.
All right.
Are you a forward thinker? Then you need an HR and finance platform that thinks like you do. Workday is the AI platform that helps propel your organization, your workforce, and your industry into the future. Workday, moving business forever forward.
Shaq here, spinning fast-acting pain relief with Icy Hot. Ice works fast, heat makes it last. Icy Hot, you're so back.
Hey, this is Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast, here to help you make the most of your summer with Michelob Ultra, a superior light beer worth playing for. Play for it with the guys when you're competing to see who can sink more birdies on the golf course, because winning tastes even better with Ultra on the line. Play for Ultra. Fill your fridge with Michelob Ultra this summer. Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2025 Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
That is uncharacteristically wise of you.
Yes, well, don't let it get around. I have a reputation.
We hear odd stories of Templars in the Imperium, Dorian.
All true.
I haven't even told you what I've heard.
Doesn't matter. All true. Particularly the part with the grapes and feathers.
Oh, I was leading towards that one, actually.
Please, go on. First Talon. What? Seeing if you've got the hang of your new title yet. Right, me. First Talon. If you join the Wardens, you could become the first Warden who's also First Talon. The first Talon Warden. Or First Talon First Warden. Is that the First Talon who is a Warden, or the first Talon First Warden? So many possibilities.
Welcome to the middle of the show, where we take time to thank our patrons. Thank you to all of our patrons. We had a great patron chat last week. It was a lot of fun. And so we thank you for that. If you'd like to join us on these chats or support us on Patreon, you can do that at patreon.com/DALorecast. Another great way to support us is to leave us ratings and reviews on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. Our podcasts are on YouTube, and you can leave us comments. That's something new we learned, which I do have a YouTube comment to read out today. And this is from Dallas, and this is on our Veilguard autopsy episode. And Dallas says, I don't have Apple Podcasts, unfortunately, so YouTube is where I have to make my comment. The Cups probably has to be one of my favorite podcasts of all time and form of entertainment during my day-to-day activities and work. The commentary provided by both Shelby and Austin is priceless, and the depth of lore and the time spent to put each episode together is amazing. I don't expect this comment to get read out loud, but I hope all is well, and one day Baby Cup will be featured on the show. In war, victory; in peace, vigilance; in death, sacrifice. Thank you so much for that comment. I'm glad that we found it on YouTube and we did get to read it out. If you are listening, we greatly appreciate it. And then last, come hang out with us on Discord. We chat. We have fun. It's a great place to be. The Cups Podcasting and More Discord. You can find that link in the episode description. And so with that, that's all I have for the middle of the show. And so we are ready to go back to Dragon Age.
All right, let's do it.
This podcast is supported by FX's English Teacher. Last year's critically acclaimed series returns to follow Evan, Gwen, and Marky as they vie for their students' divided attention. See why Cosmopolitan called its premiere season a masterclass of comedy, while Glamour raved it's the year's funniest and most heartwarming new comedy series. FX's English Teacher. All new, Thursdays on FX. All episodes now streaming on Hulu.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Finished training for the day? Time to fight post-workout fatigue with Core Power Protein Shakes. They're packed with 26 grams of high-quality protein to build muscle and electrolytes to help hydrate. The nutrition you need to help your body replenish, rebuild, and repair post-workout so you can power on to the next one. Champion your recovery with Core Power. Visit corepower.com to learn more.
This reminds me of a story. Shocking. It's about an impossibly handsome dwarf and his friend who got crowned King of the Nugs.
A Nug King? Really?
It's not as good as it sounds. Nugs mostly just shit on the floor and roll in it. Welcome to the deep roads.
Is it me, or is this the slowest lift ever constructed?
It's better than climbing down.
I could do with some music. Something with a flute.
How about we skip this one? Send your man instead.
How about I shove a canary up your coal mine?
Oh, you fear barbarians will swoop down upon you.
Yes, swooping is bad.
Okay, so we covered literature in the first half, so now we can get into theater and the stage, all things on the stage. So theater and all of these kinds of entertainment are very popular throughout Thedas, and every country kind of does it differently, so I'm going to go through each one. In Tevinter, they often feature laser light shows that they create via magic. I can imagine that in Tevinter, this is very spectacular. However, I've seen a laser light show in person exactly one time and was so thoroughly unimpressed that I never have any interest of seeing one ever again.
One, I think that one was poorly done. Two, we went to that in place of 4th of July fireworks, so it is always going to be disappointing.
True. I guess we also I didn't fully realize that there weren't going to be fireworks with it too. So, but people started leaving halfway through the show. It was so bad. Anyway, so that's Tevinter. And in Orlais, we have the Grand Royaux Theater, as you can imagine. They've got to name everything fancy. And it is like the pinnacle of Orlesian culture. I can't emphasize that enough. It, similar to Tevinter, uses chantry-sanctioned mages who provide visual effects during the plays. And like we mentioned earlier, the theater in Orlais does not use any words. It's only pantomime. And the Grand Royaux Theater was established in the Storm Age, and they actually do frequently dabble in Orlesian politics. Like we kind of discussed this in the fun facts. Many emperors have tried to squash any and all political artistic expressions. There was even one point in Orlesian history where any work that the theater put on had to be approved by both the chantry and the emperor before it made it to the stage. Talk about censorship. And the portrayal of characters in the theater also strikes an interesting contrast to the Orlesian culture of the grand game, where everybody wears a mask and hides their true nature in real life. The theater is completely different. In the theater, a character's gender and importance to the story is defined by the appearance of their masks. So I have a quote from the Codex entry, a compendium of Orlesian theater. And it kind of outlines what the different masks mean. And so it says, quote, half-face green masks indicate a leading male role. For example, while half-face purple masks are for primarily female characters. Full white masks are reserved for roles of no clear gender, such as spirits, except for demons, whose masks must always be in black and red. Further complicating matters for those new to Orlesian theater, an actor's race or sex has absolutely no bearing on the parts that they can play. So the actors, their appearance, their physical appearance makes no difference in the role they're playing. It all is determined by the mask.
Interesting.
So whereas in the grand game, the mask is trying to hide who you are. Yes, maybe it'll give hints of like, okay, your status, or it'll say like, you know, whether you're a servant or a noble, like you're hiding behind that mask. But in the theater, the mask is everything.
That's really interesting. I like that kind of cultural parallel of like, because, and it like plays into that because you are taking on the role as an actor. Like the audience should be only seeing the role that you're playing, not you as a person or the actor there.
Absolutely. Great point. And then the last point I want to talk about with Orlais and the theater is that elves actually have done very well in the theater of Orlais, holding main parts, and some have even become famous.
That is interesting, and it's just a lot of times, like in cultures with oppressed groups, in this mindset, like they're barred from the arts almost.
Yes.
Like I remember, especially like when you look up the history of like R&B and rock and Motown and all of that, like a lot of these artists they would come play for white audiences, but they wouldn't let like the black people in there, or they would just flat out like not let them in, not let a black artist play.
And that's why so many black artists, they created their own studios, and that's how some of these movements got started.
Exactly.
But in Thedas, it's kind of the opposite, where like, okay, the elves can do great, but I also think there is also a little bit of tokenism.
Yeah, probably.
So there is that. But let's move on to some of the specific plays, like we did with the books. So the first one I want to talk about is called Death in the Mansion by Violette Armand. We don't really know what the plot means, but the reason why this play is notable is that it's the first play to have ever used quote unquote false face, or when the characters change masks and therefore they change the character that they're portraying during the play. It was originally extremely controversial. Now it's so common in Orlais that it's unremarkable.
Interesting, like that thing of like them changing mask and all that. Well, and like if we look at the history of theater in our own world, like that was pretty common, like especially in like Greek theater, that like multiple actors would play multiple roles.
Yeah.
And Greek theater used masks to convey like different characters and other things like that.
Right, but we don't really do that as much like in modern plays. Like today, we don't really change roles like that. I mean, I think about the most popular one in recent history, which is the only one I can think of in recent memory, is Hamilton, where like a lot of the cast has a different character they portray in the second half.
Yes. That's the only one I can think of right now off the top of my head in the second, in like our modern thing where they do that. And like Hamilton, like which character plays which character in the second act is like very intentional in my set, and I'm sure it is in this. Death in a Mansion, just for some reason the way the title is phrased reminds me of the Monte Cristo play. What's the first beginning of that?
The Count of Monte Cristo?
Yeah, the Count of Monte Cristo. Though it's the phrasing of that.
So another play that is notable is called The Heir of Verchelles by Paul Legrand. And again, we don't know the plot of this one, but the reason why it's notable is because it's the first performance that featured an elf named Victor Boyer as the lead, and he was a city elf, so I think it's doubly notable. And it's also said that his performance was so well received that the emperor rose from his seat in applause. So an emperor is applauding an elf in Orlais.
It's a big deal.
It is pretty important. Another play is called The Setting of the Light by Lumiere Bartlett, and this originally sparked something called the Great Riot of Valriot in 452 Black. Only 14 pages of the original play remain.
Interesting.
Fascinating. I really want to know what that's about. Also, like, what's the connection? Like, the guy who wrote it is named Lumiere, and it's called The Setting of the Light. Do we think that's a coincidence? A joke by the writers? All of the above?
Who knows? I mean, I think with this, it's like the same thing we deal with a lot of times in our own plays of like trying to guess Homer's intention in his epics, like trying to guess like the intention of these plays, even like Shakespeare himself, like, which I feel like we have pretty well documented, like what might be the intention of that. But even then, you're just like, okay, what did he mean here?
Yeah, that's fair. Another play that's super, super popular in Orlesian theater is called The Sword of Draken, an examination of the life and history of the father of Orlais by Marquise Freyet. It is now a staple of Orlesian theater, but at the time that it was first portrayed, it was the first play that had ever shown Emperor Draken I as a human man who was plagued by doubts.
That's really interesting because we have some things that do that, like in our own like movies, and like even thinking Hamilton itself, of like bringing light to Alexander Hamilton and his role in history, and that, and like getting at the human person of Draken and all of that. That's really interesting to me. I'm always really interested in the way art plays into a culture.
I'm always really interested in art that maybe not reimagines, but gives us a new angle or a new lens on somebody that we think we know really well. So another one is called Wiltshire Downs by A. Puri. This is a play that's focused on the stereotypes of Ferelden's. Farting plays a major role, and it has remained lasting in popularity throughout the decades. There is nothing Orlesians love more than to hate on Ferelden's. Meanwhile, I don't think generally Orlesians enter the mind of Ferelden's.
Yeah, maybe in like the Dragon Age, just because the like occupation is a little fresh for a lot of the older people. But it's like that thing of like, I remember when we were playing D&D one time, and this reoccurring person came in who he defeated, and he was like, I hate you. Then your character was like, I don't think about you at all.
It reminds me of the GIF, the moment from the Marvel movies where Thanos is like, I don't even know who you are.
Yeah, exactly.
I think about that all the time.
Well, I also just think of like, I feel like it's hard for Orlesians to insult Fereldans, because the Fereldans are just like, yeah, we're different from you, and we take pride in that.
Well, it's hard to insult somebody that you think you're better than, that you lost to.
You know, there's a relationship I'm thinking about between our country and another country that I feel like is relevant here.
You mean the United States and England?
Yeah.
I was thinking of Tennessee and Alabama. Just saying.
Go Vols.
Okay, let's move on to the last play that I have to talk about, which is the unnamed play about Andraste that occurs in the Masked Empire that we have referenced already. And it depicts Maferath punishing Andraste for taking Shartan the elf as her lover. It was indeed a thinly veiled attack on Celine's alleged relationship with Briala, and was orchestrated completely by Gaspard and did exactly what he wanted it to do. So those are some of the most popular plays in Orlais. Do you have overarching thoughts about them before we kind of move into these last two?
So, like this, so in the Masked Empire, this play, I just want to talk about it because it's a very specific, like, I feel like allusion to a very famous Shakespearean play of Hamlet, which is one of the most famous, because this is what Hamlet does. Like, to kind of expose and prove that Claudius killed his father, he puts on a play where Claudius kills his father and watches for Claudius's reaction.
Yeah.
And Claudius falls for it.
He does.
And Celine, the same way, just like is so angry. And
projection is one hell of a thing to overcome.
I know. And it's so sad because had Celine just laughed it off, had she just been like, oh yeah, that's really funny, no one would have thought twice. And been like, oh, it must not be true. If she's able to laugh at it this way, it's probably not true.
Exactly. But when you're upset about something, when somebody's mocking you, it's really hard to remember that.
It is.
But you would think somebody like the Empress, who's been trained in the grand game for literally her whole entire life, would be able to think about that.
Right. And we talked about this in our episode on the Masked Empire, but like the Masked Empire opens with her playing the game really well. So we have evidence that she
can.
She just is. I think Celine is too impulsive to be Empress.
I don't think she's too impulsive to be Empress, because I think her clearest competitor, Gaspard, is also completely impulsive. I think she is too impulsive. She's too impulsive to be a bard. And she thinks that she's a bard because she has some bardic training. But like, she's nowhere near the level of Liliana.
No, I mean, Liliana is playing a game that's so far ahead of you, you're not even realize that you're not playing the same game.
Yes, exactly.
Right. But anyway, that's all I really have on these. They're all really interesting, and I would love to like watch and read all of them. I know,
me too.
We don't have that.
So the last two that I want to talk about are both Antivan cultural things primarily. The first one is opera. And it is primarily in Antiva, so we don't know much about it. What we do know is that high opera often features ornate puppetry, and that a woman named Carlotta Montevecchio was one of the most famous operatic performers of all time. She was nicknamed the Songbird and was eventually targeted and killed by the Antivan crows. Her death was mimicked in Teventer Nights, chapter 8 Little Talons. And then there is one opera that we know of that's called The Murder of Queen Madrigal, and it is an Antivan opera that covers Queen Madrigal's mysterious death. And then I also want to talk about puppetry. Even though they use that in opera, it also is a standalone kind of thing. Antiva has a very, very long history of puppetry, and Orlais also takes some of these puppetry traditions from them. While the primary purpose of puppet shows is to entertain, a lot of the street shows will comment on political issues, and the Antivan crows are actually known to use them as a way to send public messages. And so the Antivan tradition, we don't know exactly where it came from, but there's a theory that it may have been influenced by Dalish clans in and around Antiva. They had a habit of building forest marionettes to scare humans away from their clans. And so we think that might be where their tradition got its inspiration from, but we're not sure. Now, the most famous puppet shows in Antiva today are basically like the most ornate creations that you can think of, like in the Baroque tradition, like all the gilding, the fancifulness, created for the opera and also religious festivals. In the Dragon Age, shadow puppetry has also risen in popularity. And we do have one puppet play, which is called The Fall of Eldorath, and it is about Andraste's father.
Yeah, after learning all this, I'm like, why don't we see this in the background of games? Like, I just feel like it brings out the world a lot.
It does. And I also wonder, like, how much of this are we just missing? Like, is there anything in the games in the background that we just haven't noticed?
Maybe.
Because, I mean, all of this stuff comes from codex entries.
Right. I mean, I guess maybe. I mean, we do go to the opera in Dragon Age Inquisition. I'd have to play them again, and I don't know if I have that kind of commitment.
I know, like, to look at the background all the time. I definitely don't. So that's literature, theater, puppetry, opera, books, all of this kind of entertainment. Do you have any closing thoughts before we get into our side character for the day?
Just that I wish we had like more like actual text of these. That would be cool. Like BioWare, if you still exist, and EA, all of that. Like if you had someone write all this down and release it, I'd probably buy it.
Oh hell yeah, I definitely would.
And look at all those things. I think that's really interesting. I also wish that like we could go back into the Veilguard and like. I feel a little cheated because we only experienced all these countries for the first time in the middle of a major world crisis. Like, we didn't get to see Antiva be Antiva.
That's true.
And, like, I would love to see, like, the crows sending these public messages, because like the way we've expanded the crows, because in Origins they're like this bloodthirsty like mafia-esque hitman group, and like as we've developed them, they've become this like group of assassins with this morality of like how you kill someone is just as important as killing them.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And
yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about the crows. I don't want to get into all that, but if you want to hear my thoughts on the crows, you can join the Discord. But I do agree with you. And like, we only saw Treviso, right, in Antiva. Like, that's not, we didn't see Antiva City. We didn't see Selene. Like, there are other cities that we didn't see. There are other places we didn't get to go to. So I agree with you. I'd love to know more. But unless you have more thoughts, let's get into our side character.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. So today's side character is a woman called Lady Mantione, who is an Orlesian bard and a master manipulator of the grand game. And we're going to talk about her and just like compare this to what we said earlier about Selene, right? Like, there's no comparison. But surprise, I want to go back because this side character is actually two side characters. Because there are two characters who have this exact same name. And no, it's not a plot hole, which a lot of people think it is. It's not. So I want to get into the original and then the one we see in Dragon Age Inquisition. So the first reference we get to Lady Mantione comes from Dragon Age 2's Mark of the Assassin DLC, where we can find a portrait depicting her. At this point, she is called Dowager Mantione, and she is an older, depicted kind of severe woman. The Associated Codex entry says, quote, "The Orlesians have a saying, you must dance with the Dowager if you want to play the game. To a foreigner, this might sound like some sort of proverb. In fact, Dowager Lady Mantione has been one of the most influential members of the Imperial Court for over 30 years, and nobody advances in the game without her favor. The rumors surrounding her are many. She was Emperor Florian's mistress. She was Florian's assassin. She placed Empress Selene on the throne. She once killed a rival with only harsh words. She rules Orlais from the shadows. One thing is certain, however. If you must have the best society in Orlais, ask a dance of the Dowager." End quote. We know from the Masked Empire, at least one of these statements is true. She did indeed help Selene take the throne, which suggests to me that there is at least some truth in the other accusations from the Codex entry.
Right. It's like they've painted her up as like the person who has the real power in Orlais. Like, it's kind of like, okay, no, she doesn't have an official position of power, but like if you want power, you need her on your side.
Exactly. She is a kingmaker, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
We also know that the original Lady Mantione also had a propensity to give gifts to the people who impressed her. Selene was given a puzzle ring as a reward for helping secure Florian's death, while Gaspard was given one for killing a man at her request. So she doesn't always pick sides the way you might think she would. She was also skilled in archery and knife work, and she actually trained many students in these skills as well. And she trained many students in the art of becoming an Orlesian bard. So we also see her in the Masked Empire. And remember, this happens a little bit before Dragon Age Inquisition, not too far, but a little bit before. And in the Masked Empire, she sends her son Etienne as a possible suitor for Selene, who ultimately rejects him. Mantione is still impressed with Selene nonetheless and ends up taking her under her wing. They then plan and plot, which involves the death of Briala's parents, and you can read about that for yourself. Later on, Lady Mantione is murdered by Briala in an act of revenge. She had a few opportunities actually to take Briala out herself in this fight, but she chose not to, because she believed that Brialla was loyal to the Empress and was actually kind of impressed by Brialla, is my personal theory. So that's the original Lady Mantione. And I keep calling her the original because there's one that shows up in Dragon Age Inquisition. And they can't be the same person because the original Lady Mantione dies in the Masked Empire, as we've just discussed, okay? So if the original Lady Mantione dies in the Masked Empire, who in the world is the one that we meet in Wicked Eyes, Wicked Hearts? Well, like I just said, we know they can't be the same person, even if the OG Lady Mantione somehow survived Brialla's attack, whatever. We know because the person in Inquisition is not quite as old as the original Mantione would have been. However, we do know some interesting tidbits about Inquisition's Lady Mantione, about her from ambient conversations that help us decipher her identity. Number 1, she has a lot of husbands. Number 2, let's get into all the husbands. So husband number 1 is a man called Laron. He died during the war between Ferelden and Orlais. Husband number 2 is a man named Philippe, who died after being thrown off his horse. Husband number 3 is Pierre, who died from something called Rosalia. When he died, she swore off marriage forever. Husband number 4 is Maximilian. He swept her off her feet, was apparently half her age, was killed by a bear, and it took 4 chevaliers to take down this bear. Husband number 5, a man named Gerard. He was the first husband to die from actually legitimately mysterious circumstances. Up to this point, all of the men died from what seemed to be completely innocent, like there's no way that was her fault. This is a horrible coincidence. Gerard is the first one that there's something fishy going on. He fell, quote, from the bell tower at the Grand Cathedral. And the quote from the dialogue is, "To this day, no one knows why he was there." Husband number 6 is Herve. And one of the people in the dialogue that we learn about Herve in was actually an acquaintance, a friend of him. Apparently, they had installed a rose garden where Herve was stung by a bee, and he was deathly allergic. And that's how he died. Husband number 7, Renard, was poisoned after drinking 3 glasses of something called aquae lucidius, which is a poison. Apparently, Mantione had warned him not to drink this drink on an empty stomach. Suspicious. Husband number 8, Nazaire, was, quote, tragically crushed by a cartload of fine handbags. And last, but certainly not least, is husband number 9, Etienne, who died in a violent tailoring accident. Go ahead.
What is a violent tailoring accident?
All I can think of is the tailor stabbed him in the jugular with a sewing needle.
I guess so, yeah.
Now, if you've been paying attention, you may have caught on that Lady Mantione from Inquisition's 9th and final husband, Etienne, was named Etienne. It just so happens that the original Mantione's son, the one who offered his hand to Celine in marriage, is also named Etienne. Coincidence? I don't think so. I think that the Lady Mantione we see in Inquisition is actually the daughter-in-law or former daughter-in-law of the original Lady Mantione and has taken her name and her kind of like positioning of herself into her own court persona, although she's not quite as fearsome or as good at the game, in my opinion.
That's really interesting in this side character, and just like it's like from The Princess Bride of like there must always be a Dread Pirate Roberts, and it's like just like a persona that's passed down, which I feel like is what they're kind of playing here. But it's just really, really interesting, and a really good point that sometimes when you have someone that's such like a charismatic personality and like this grand personality, like when they die and they leave, yes, there are people who can take that up, but they never quite capture the essence of what was originally there.
Yeah. Yeah, great point. And I just wanted to bring this. I actually had originally scheduled this side character, for a different episode, but once I started doing the research, I was like, this is a saga. This is a play in and of itself. So like, I've got to switch this around and make this into the literature and plays episode. So
right.
It was just fascinating, and for me, for a long time, I just assumed, oh, they messed up, that this character was made in the game before they remembered that they killed, or before they wrote that they killed her off in the Masked Empire. But that's not the case, I don't think.
Right. It's just really interesting, and it would be cool to have some follow-up, but I don't think we're ever going to get that follow-up.
Probably not.
But it is interesting, and I like the layer this adds to, like, because Wicked Eyes, Wicked Hearts is really the first time we get a glance into the grand game of Orlais from a first-hand experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this story really just like expands like how deep this game is, how deep like the movements can be of like what are we even playing?
True. It goes down to everything.
Exactly. But yeah, do you have any other last thoughts of that? Or
that's all I have for today. This has been a really good episode. A long one, but yeah, literature, theater, plays, puppetry, opera, the grand game, all very important in Thedas.
Yeah. So thank you so much for bringing this episode to us and doing the research. We greatly appreciate it. I had a lot of fun. I hope you had a lot of fun. Thanks for listening to the Dragon Age Lorecast. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Dragon Age Lorecast. You can find us on Twitter at DALorecast.
If you have any lore questions, topics to unpack, or side character suggestions, join our Cups Podcasting and More Discord server. It's easily the best place on the internet. You can also support us financially through our Patreon. You can find us there on patreon.com/DragonAgeLorecast.
The Dragon Age Lorecast is part of the Robots Radio Network. For more information about the Robots Radio Network, join the Discord server via the link in our episode description.
If you enjoyed the show or learned something new today, please subscribe, leave us a review, and join the Patreon. And if you enjoyed our intro and outro music, give a big thank you to Pipeman Studios. Thank you, Pipeman. Thanks again for listening to the Dragon Age Lorecast. We'll see you next time.
Have you ever wanted to deep dive into the lore and stories behind all your favorite Marvel movies? Then do we have the show for you? I'm Captain Shenko.
And I'm Psych88. Join us as we dissect the media megalith that is the MCU. We'll talk about the origin stories, the fights, and everything in between.
The MCU Lorecast releases on all major podcasting platforms on Mondays as part of the Robots Radio Rocket Club and can be found on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.